Hello, everyone. Welcome to the OSC Summer Law Student panel discussion. My name is Jackie Fu, Human Resources Advisor, and I'm joined by my colleagues Jessica Halte, Human Resources Assistant, and Marcia Engel, Human Resources Advisor, who will be assisting with technical support today. The focus of the session today is for interested applicants to hear from employees at the Ontario Securities Commission who are current and former summer law students regarding their summer law student experience and the type of work they've had the opportunity to get involved in. For those who are not familiar with the OSC works to protect investors, foster fair and efficient markets, and contribute to the stability of the financial system in Ontario. We do this by making and enforcing rules to govern the securities industry in Ontario. We are the largest securities regulator in Canada. These are exciting times for securities regulation. Evolving markets means new ways of thinking and new ways of addressing complex challenges, from getting involved in policy work, participating in national and international working groups, to assisting with examinations and witness interviews, and more. For our summer law students, every day at the OSC is an opportunity to learn, innovate, and grow professionally in a supportive, stimulating workplace. We hope you will consider the OSC for your summer law experience next year and to help make a meaningful impact in the public sector. Before I introduce the panel, in terms of today's format, we'll be spending about the first 35 to 40 minutes or so hearing from our panel guests, and then we'll open up the discussion for Q&A with the audience. So the audience is on mute, but you can send your questions via the question tab in the GoToWebinar control panel. And without further ado, I have the pleasure of welcoming our following staff to our panel. Kelsey Coughlin, Legal Counsel, Secretary's Office. Jacob Reynolds, he's currently a summer law student in the Investment Funds and Structured Product branch. Elena Larionova, Legal Counsel, Compliance and Registrant Regulation. And Julia Jean-Baptiste, Senior Legal Counsel, Corporate Finance. All right, so welcome everyone, thank you so much. To get us started, let's go around our virtual table. And let's start with Kelsey. Please introduce yourself, tell us your name, and tell us about your summer law student experience. When did you summer at the OSC? In which branch were you in? And what was a highlight from that experience?
Thanks, Jackie. Hello, everyone. Welcome. So I was a summer student way back in 2017. Really wasn't that long ago, but since it was pre-COVID, it feels like an entirely different world. So to me, it feels like a long time ago. I was with the Office of the Secretary, which is one of the Commission's advisory branches. I later came back and articled with the branch and then came back as a lawyer, and I've been a lawyer with the branch for about 2 years. So my summer was very enjoyable overall. I'd say one of the highlights was really getting to know the other students that were working at the OSC at the time. I think in my year, we had a really large number of students spread out amongst all the different branches. And sometimes it's a bit hard to get to know the other students, especially if your branch only has one. And so when I was a student, our HR team made a really big effort to organize events for the students so we could get to know each other. And that really led to some great relationships going forward that I still have today. So I think that was one of the main things that I remember from that experience.
Great. And Jacob, would you like to go next?
Yes, so thank you. My name is Jacob Reynolds. I am currently a summer student in the Investment Funds and Structured Product branch. So I guess, unlike Kelsey, I'm still a summer student, so it's not that far back, but my experience has been entirely virtual. So that's come with its ups and downs, definitely. But one of the main highlights of this summer so far has just been the variety of work that I've been able to see come through the branch, even in a virtual environment, and the variety of people I've had an opportunity to work with. Whether it's working on policy initiatives or helping out with files, it's just been really great to kind of see what working within a regulatory environment actually feels like, and it's been great as virtual can be. And I've gotten to meet a lot of great people, and that's definitely the highlight of my summer so far.
Elena, you want to go ahead?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Elena Larianova, and I summered at the investor office in the summer of 2019. Much of my work there involved providing legal analysis for supervising lawyers on different issues that stemmed from policy projects. One highlight from that experience was our policy work around helping firms basically address situations involving diminished mental capacity or potential financial exploitation of older or just more vulnerable clients. We were basically trying to determine like what practical steps could firms take if their client shows up and they have suspicions that maybe the client is being financially exploited. So like, can they place a temporary hold on the account, or can they maybe call a trusted contact person of the client? For me, this was really interesting because it touched on so many different areas, like obviously securities law, but also we dealt with estates law and privacy law. Definitely a lot of interesting research questions, and very rewarding to contribute to something that would help protect investors in a very direct way. So that's all been published now if anyone's interested.
Great. And you, Julius?
Certainly. Hi, all. I'm Julius Jean-Baptiste. I'm currently Senior Legal Counsel in the Corporate Finance Branch of the Commission. My summer law experience goes way back to 2010. I was in the enforcement branch back then, and back then I was the only summer student. So there really wasn't a lot of that, collaborative getting together with other students, because the branch commission didn't actually have that set up at the time, where they got all the summer students together. Nonetheless, it was a great experience. I actually stumbled upon that position. Mind you, I did have my eye on an articling position from before, and when I found out about the summer position, that sounded fantastic, and I jumped at it. Given the time that has gone by, I don't actually remember what I did as a summer student, as you can imagine. But the highlight, I do remember the highlight, and it was really when they asked me to assist that the mergers and acquisitions group, the M&A group. They were having a high-profile hearing in the summer of 2010, and that was a hearing involving Magna International. Magna had floated the idea of getting rid of its dual share structure, whereby they were going to purchase the multi-voting shares from the founder, Frank Strana. And quite a few of the institutional investors were not very happy about the specific terms of the arrangement. The commission looked into whether or not this plan of arrangement was conscious with public interest. They set up a very quick, it was a very, very quick hearing. It lasted 2 days. And my main function there was really to review documents and help update the litigation binders. So there are quite a few people involved, quite a few parties involved in this hearing, and just about every Bay Street firm was involved. We had all the big firms were involved because the company obviously had a legal counsel. Frank, the founder had legal counsel. The special committee of the company had its own legal counsel, and then you've got the interveners such as Teachers Union. They have their own counsel as well. So all of Bay Street was involved in that, and I got to have a front row seat at the litigators table reserved for staff of the commission, right up there with commission litigators. That was a fantastic summer experience, and more so because when I went back to law school, that was a pretty important case. And we ended up discussing that particular arrangement during the following semester in law school. It was fantastic all around.
Great. Thank you so much for your responses to that question. So my following questions are for Kelsey, Ilona, and Julius. Now you've shared that you've all returned to the OSC in different roles. So tell us about how your career has progressed since your summer law student term.
So I'll start. So like I said, after my summer term, I returned as an articling student and then later as a lawyer with the same branch. I would still refer to myself as what they call a baby lawyer So I'm really into my 3rd year of practice. So I still have a long way to go. So it's hard to wrap my mind around a question that just asks how your career has progressed, because it still feels like it's in its early stages. But so my branch does a lot of work with the OSC tribunal, and a lot of my work is in the adjudicative sphere. So I've been able to assist the OSC's commissioners by providing legal advice on a wide range of hearings, from merits and sanctions hearings that deal with, issues of fraud and insider trading and all of that cool stuff, to, hearing and reviews of decisions of IROC and the MFDA. So things like that come up all the time. And I think, year after year, as you get more comfortable and competent as a lawyer, you get more responsibility and more exposure to different interesting and complex areas of securities law. So I think you start off not really knowing what you're doing, or you feel like you don't know what you're doing, and then you start to feel more and more, I guess, legitimate and as a valued member of the team as the more you go. So yeah, to sum up, I'm still pretty new, but I've been able to do a lot of really great stuff in the time that I've been here.
So I guess I'll go next. I summered at the investor office, and then I came back to article with CRR, or compliance and registrant regulation. And I just finished my articles in June, and I've returned to work at CRR on a contract basis. So the mandate of the CRR is pretty different from the investor office. The investor office is a little bit more policy focused. CRR involves more direct registration and ongoing oversight and compliance reviews of registrants. So as an articling student, I was assigned my own files, different types of notices, exemptive relief applications, and I got to work on them and see them through to the end, which was just a really great way to kind of gain an understanding of how securities regulation on paper actually applies in practice to firms. And I've also been on a couple of policy projects, which are very, very interesting. I kind of feel the same way as Kelsey in terms of like very much a baby lawyer, but I'm very excited to see where things go.
Right, so talk about my journey. It's been a fantastic journey, as you can imagine, going back to 2010 as a summer student. That led to an articling position with the enforcement branch in 2011. And that was a fantastic opportunity, learning how the litigation process worked. And actually got a chance to prepare the documents and present a little mini case to the commission panel. So that was a very exciting opportunity there. Once I got called to the bar in 2012, then I stayed on with enforcement as litigation counsel. That was a contractual position. But I always had my mind, my midterm goal was to pivot into corporate finance at some point. I just wanted to get that litigation experience under my belt. And sure enough, within by 2013, the opportunity to go to corporate finance came up much sooner than I initially planned on. But when the opportunity comes up with a full-time job, you don't turn it down. So I jumped at that opportunity and went to corporate finance branch as a full-time legal counsel. And I have to say, the work in corporate finance is quite different from working in enforcement. As a litigator, you're dealing with a relatively small number of files that go on for years and years. Whereas with corporate finance, your files are moving so fast. It's prospectuses, it's IPOs, and they've got to be reviewed in a short space of time. Exemptive relief applications that we work on. So to a certain extent, I really enjoyed that part of it, because the files would come and they were gone within a month, as opposed to files that are sitting around for a couple of years. But the work in corporate finance, I find it very fulfilling. We, our bread and butter is really reviewing prospectuses and applications for exemptive relief. But we also attend to inquiries from the public and complaints. We get a lot of complaints regarding public companies and reporting issues, so we do look into that. And likewise, we have a lot of policy work that we're involved in, and we do have some fairly unique responsibilities in that we have oversight of the listing functions of the exchanges that are recognized in Ontario, such as the TSX. So I'm actually involved in that project as well, which I find very, very interesting. And of course, every now and then we have the opportunity to partake in an event such as being on a panel like this.
Great, thank you so much. So the following questions are for you, Jacob. As a current summer law student, what accomplishments have you been most proud of so far? And what's a key tip you would recommend to applicants to make the most of their summer law student experience?
Yes, so I would like to start off my answer by saying someone in my building has started renovation. So if that noise starts to come through, I would like to apologize ahead of time. I don't control when they start the drills, but yes. So throughout my short summer so far, I've been involved in a lot of different projects and a lot of different files. So it was kind of difficult to pick one specific file that I was most proud of, one specific project I was most proud of, because like Julius mentioned, the IFSP branch, they handle a lot of exemptive relief applications. So that's been the majority of my file work, has been people filing for exemption from the Securities Act and national instruments. But one specific file I worked on that stood out to me was a lapse date extension, which is a fairly simple file for people who know about them. But I had, I guess, earned enough trust within my branch that they let me take the lead on a lot of it. And what I'm particularly proud of in this file was I got to call up the filing counsel lawyer and have a meeting with them one-on-one without my filing mentor, because they trusted me enough to handle that interaction on my own. And I'm really proud of being able to handle that, especially as a summer student. I mean, I'm not even a fully qualified lawyer yet, so it was definitely nerve-wracking to call up the lawyer on my own. But I'm especially proud of how that situation went. And then as far as the second part of the question, a key tip I would recommend applicants make the most of their summer law student experience is to get to know the people you work with. That's a big thing for me. Obviously, I've been virtual, so it's been a lot more difficult. I think if I were in the office, it would be maybe I'm saying that because it's something that I've missed from interacting with people in a non-virtual way. But I think it's a huge part, especially in a branch like mine where I'm the only summer student in the branch. So the interactions with summer students outside of the opportunities that are organized by human resources, they're limited. I'll say they're limited outside of organized events. And so getting to know my colleagues and the people I work with in a better way, in a much more personal way, has definitely helped me, I don't say just be happier, I guess, in my role and not feel isolated so much. And that would be my biggest tip, my biggest takeaway.
Great, thank you, Jacob. So the next questions are for Kelsey, Elena, and Julius again. So all of you have held, as mentioned, various roles at the OSC, worked in different branches. What keeps you engaged at the OSC, and what do you find most satisfying in your work?
So I've had the pleasure of remaining primarily in one branch for my entire experience here, but that's something that I'm really happy about, because I think you get to get experience for a lot of different things when you're working within the tribunal sphere. So there's always new and interesting areas of securities law coming up. And when you work on the adjudicative side, you get to see the law develop kind of firsthand, which is really interesting. And you get to know the case law very well, because you might be assisting with, drafting a certain decision, or you get to see, the thought process that goes behind certain decisions, which is really interesting and not something that a lot of people get to see. Something I think that keeps me engaged is that very thing. I don't want my practice to get kind of monotonous. I don't want to do the same thing every day, because to me that sounds incredibly boring. So after getting to work on new and usually very interesting files, it really helps me keep engaged. And just as a last point, something that I find very satisfying about our work is that in our branch, I feel like we are always kind of actively working towards the goals that are set out in the commission's mandate. And we're always working towards protecting the public interest. That's something that's always at the forefront in our branch, and I think every other branch as well, but I can obviously only speak for my own. But that's something that is very satisfying.
Great.
So I think staying engaged at work is more important than ever, just with, you know, having worked from home this entire past year, having not stepped into the office once during my entire articling period, and like, given the fact that my couch is just right there, really important to stay engaged. So one thing that I find really engaging about the OSC is that there is a lot of different types of work that we do. I've been involved in different policy projects. I've worked on a range of different files, and there's always been new interesting legal questions coming up, new challenges coming up. And there's also cross collaboration between the different branches, with the other provincial regulators, with IROC, with MFDA. So it's great to get exposure to all the different perspectives and different areas of work. As an example, I'm currently collaborating with the market regulation branch on a file, and I'm learning a lot about marketplace regulation that I don't think I would have ever had exposure to otherwise. So it's been really great.
Great, thank you.
You know, working at the commission is fantastic. I mean, we have so many branches, and there's opportunities, you know, to do comments at these branches and learn a totally new area. So, you know, I'm saying, like, I'm starting to look to see, you know, what other branches I might want to go to and learn a little more, given that I've been around for a bit. But it's, you know, it's been very satisfying with the work that I've done with the commission. You get a sense of having fulfilled a sense of civic duty working in the public sector. So that's a key. I think that's the key part as well. We've got a great team of lawyers and accountants and support staff in the corporate finance branch, and we all work together to get the job done. In terms of, you know, getting bored, the work is very varied. You know, with prospectuses, I find every prospectus that I review, I learn something new. It comes with a wealth of information. I'm either learning about a new company that's been around for a while, but it's just doing an IPO, and I'm really learning the details of the company, or you're learning about a new industry that you never really knew much about. And there are always new evolving industries with the creative minds out there trying to float an IPO. So that's very interesting. Even the executive relief applications that might seem pretty routine, they sometimes come with pretty interesting, you know, novel elements, which keeps it interesting. Mm-hmm. You know, the other interesting thing is we do work on a lot of policy projects, and that gives you an opportunity to actually work collaboratively with other jurisdictions, you know, the staff from the various commissions around the country. And you get to know staff from the different commissions, you're working with them constantly, either on policy projects or for exemptive relief applications that are filed in more than one jurisdiction. One thing I cannot ignore about the job, we have very reasonable working hours, so that was always a big plus for me. You know, you get a decent pay. Plus, we have fantastic benefits. You know, you can't overlook a defined benefits, defined pension plan. But what's most satisfying is that, you know, the work that we do in the commission is very important work, and that has been recognized throughout, and it just feels great to be part of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that definitely sounds like a common theme. You know, working in the public sector, making a meaningful impact. That's something that we all sounds like, you know, that we all feel. So that's great. Okay, before we get to the last set of questions, just wanted to let the audience know if you'd like to submit any questions into the question tab in the control panel, feel free to do so. And when we get to the end of the questions and open up to Q&A, I'll be happy to read out the questions aloud and direct them to the panelists, you know, as appropriate. Okay, so last questions, set of questions for our panelists. How would you describe the work environment and culture at the OSC? And thinking about your previous workplaces, what makes working at the OSC unique?
So I have had nothing but incredibly positive experiences working with my branch at the OSC, and in my, I guess, more limited interactions with the other branches as well. It's always been very positive. I work with a small, tight-knit group of people. I think my branch may be the smallest branch at the commission. It's definitely one of the smaller branches. Everyone that I work with is always willing to help you, listen to your ideas. No one will ever make you feel small, even when you may be the least knowledgeable person on the team, which is probably likely to be the case when you're the summer student, just because you haven't had an opportunity to gain a lot of the practical knowledge that you need. What I found, at least in my branch, is that everyone everyone wants the summer student to succeed. We're investing our time in teaching you and giving you as much exposure as we can to what our branch does and what the OSC does. And everyone wants to have a hand in helping you succeed. So my manager in particular always wants to make sure you get as much exposure as you want or can have without putting too much on you and overburdening you. Because at the same time, we want you to get exposed as much as possible, but nobody wants you to be working super late hours or working on the weekends. We want you to enjoy yourself. Yeah, there's always an expectation that you'll work hard and produce quality work, but there's still a huge focus on learning and improvement and enjoyment. So overall, I'd say the culture is very positive, accepting, and welcoming. And there's a reason I'm still working here a few years down the line.
I can go next if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry. So I would like to echo everything Kelsey has said. She probably covered a lot of what I was going to say, which is great about going first in this question, I guess.
Sorry about that.
As a current summer student, I can absolutely say that obviously I don't have that much previous work experience within the legal field specifically, but it has been from like the moment I stepped in my branch, I felt completely welcomed, and no one was really out to get me. Everyone was happy to answer questions that I had, and I was that person who entered knowing nothing. And that securities and investments is not something that's touched upon very much and that I've had in my law school classes. So I came in not knowing very much, and anytime I was assigned a new file or a new topic, whoever was my mentor on the subject would reach out to me and say, do you know what this is? Do you need me to explain how this works, how this functions? And just as way of an example, one of my file mentors, so I was assigned a file of a structured note being offered from a shelf prospectus. And I had no idea what those words meant at the time that I was assigned the file. And my file mentor reached out to me and actually gave me like a 2-hour presentation on what a structured note is, shelf prospectus, how to read it, how to go through it, and what kind of problems to look for. And that's just like one good example, but I've had that situation so many times in my branch where everyone has been really willing to help me. And as Kelsey said, everyone wants to see you succeed. No one wants to see you struggle, because they put all this time and effort into hiring you. They want you to be the best that you can be. And so, yeah, so it's a great environment, and I'll leave it at that.
Great.
So I guess I'll go next. I pretty much will just echo what everyone said. I think the OSC is such a collegial environment and has a really strong team culture. And you're working not just with lawyers, but also with accountants and registration officers and people who specialize in research and policy. So you're getting a lot of different perspectives, and you get opportunities to learn about areas you may not know that much about. And like, just personally from my experience, I've spoken to people from all these different positions, and they've all helped me with some part of my work, and that's been just like instrumental to kind of getting to know everything. I think also everyone gets along really well, and there's no need to try to fit into any kind of mold or be any type of person. I've always just, felt very supported. Everyone on, like, both at the investor office and at CRR has been friendly, encouraging, welcoming. And I think this is so important, just to fostering an environment where you can learn and grow and ask questions, and the OSC definitely does a great job at that.
Definitely echo that. I mean, the OSC is a fantastic place to work. I found it was a fantastic place when I joined in 2010 as a summer student, and I haven't looked back since. I've never even thought about leaving the commission and going elsewhere. It's a very professional work environment. You get treated with respect. A lot of smart people on the commission. Everyone's hardworking. You never find people trying to shook off their responsibility at the expense of the rest of the team. It's just really amazing to see that everyone's just so professional, working hard just to get the job done. We've got a great sense of teamwork within the corporate finance branch. One of the things that I do like is we have sort of this knowledge sharing system that we have. We have these regular operational meetings where staff get to discuss the more complicated files that they've worked with. And that gives you an opportunity to really get a sense of any new trends that are out there in the marketplace, even if you're not working on that specific file. So it's great. And the other thing I find is that, people are always willing to help. If you've got a novel file, a file that has a novel element, it's just a matter of consulting with a more senior staff, and they're more than happy to help. Very collaborative. So we're helping because I think that there's an understanding that if one team drops a ball, the entire branch will likely look bad. So it's good to see that. We're more than happy to assist because we're all more or less in it for the common good. It's a fantastic place to work.
Mm-hmm. I would echo that from an HR perspective. I mean, I feel the same way working in my own branch. I know I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a summer law student, but just having that team mentality that we're just working together. If a ball drops, then we're all going to collectively pick it up together, and because ultimately, we are a team, and we have a strong, even from an HR perspective, a strong appreciation of our mandate, and we may not be working on the policy, doing the policy work or being in part of those investigations, but we can feel our own impact in our own way of how we contribute to the overall OSC's mandate, and it's a good feeling. So, okay, well, that concludes our panel discussion. So thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your experiences with us. Now I'd like to give our audience a chance to ask any questions or share any comments. So just a reminder in terms of logistics, our audience will remain on mute, but you can send in your questions through the question tab in the GoToWebinar control panel. So I do see a couple of questions come in. And they're in regards to the application process. So I'm happy to take those questions. A couple of them are the same question. So it's in regards to, I'm wondering if we should indicate our interest in a specific branch in our cover letter. If we're interested in 2 or 3 branches, can we also indicate that? And there's another question that's very similar. So the response to that is there's 2 different places where you can indicate which branches you're interested in. One being your cover letter. So you can indicate in your cover letter which particular branches you're applying to, as well as in the application process. There are particular questions you need to answer as part of your application. And one of them is to indicate which branches you're applying to, and it's a multiple pick list, so you can select more than one. So I hope that answers your questions. While we can maybe give our audience a few more minutes to see if they want to send any more questions through. I will, another one came in. Who are we expected to address the cover letter to? So it's, there's a few options you could do. You could address it to HR. You could address it to the hiring manager, just dear hiring manager, or even to whom this may concern. We're not too overly fussed about it. And should we be applying through the VI Law portal or on the OSC website? Please, there's a link on the VI portal that goes to our OSC website. So I would encourage you for like a more direct access to please go to the OSC website and apply under current opportunities. Okay, well, there's a few kind of coming in now. Could Ms. Coughlin please repeat which branch she's worked in? I had some trouble hearing. Thank you.
No problem. You can call me Kelsey. There's no need to call me Miss Coughlin. I work in the Office of the Secretary branch. I don't believe we are one of the branches that are hiring this, round of summer students. Is it okay if I comment on that, Jackie?
Sure. I can take a double check. 'Cause
if we aren't, I have a follow-up comment that would apply to at least the people that go to Osgood.
Mm-hmm. I believe you're correct. Yes, I believe you're correct.
Yeah, so we do get a summer student. It's just not through, you know, the same process that's applying to all the other branches. If you go to Osgood, there is a program called the Hennick Center Business Law Internship. I don't know if it's guaranteed every year that we get a summer student through that, but the last couple of years we have. So I believe that's how we will probably be getting our summer student. And I think that that process happens in the new year.
Okay, great. Thank you. There's a question directed, I guess, I think anybody on the panel can answer, kind of on a high level. You know, what are some general qualities or traits that would help a student excel at the OSC? You know, I think, you know, this applies to maybe staff across the OSC. I think a lot of us exhibit similar traits. But what are perhaps one or two traits that would help someone excel at the OSC? Anybody, any takers?
I don't mind jumping in first if anyone has anything else. I would say in my experience as a summer student, I think independence is a big one, especially because I'm the only summer student. Everyone else is significantly more busy than I am. So they're all slammed with work. They don't want to have to be checking in on the summer student every minute of every day. So being able to work independently, and if you have a question, attempting to find an answer before you call someone up. Not that I'm saying you shouldn't call someone up, because everyone's very helpful and willing to answer your questions, but to take that extra step and to say, I don't understand this, let me see if I can answer my own question before going to someone, is a big thing that I found through my experience.
Mm-hmm.
I can add a couple. I think strong research and writing skills is something that's beneficial no matter what branch you're in. Especially I think if you're if you're interested in like the enforcement branch, something like that, I think that would involve a lot of research and writing. I know in our branch we'd like to have a student that has really good attention to detail, because you may be involved in, you know, proofreading decisions and orders and, you know, reviewing submissions. So that's something that is always beneficial.
Great,
Definitely.
thank you.
Research and writing skills are very, very important. One piece of advice is if you've been given an assignment, it's always helpful to, if you're going in to do some research and prepare some stand-up work, it's always a good idea to check in just to make sure that you are on the right track before you go too deep into actually creating the product that you're working on, because nothing can be worse if you've taken a wrong turn and you don't realize it until you put a lot of effort into it. So it's always a good idea to follow up with whoever your mentor, whoever's assigned you that task, and to confirm that you're seeing eye to eye, you're thinking along the same lines, and you are on the right path.
And I guess I would add to that, just generally, I've also found that communication is really important. With most branches, I think you're working as part of a team, and you should be checking in with your mentor and other people whose work touches on what you're doing, because you just need to collaborate kind of the whole way through.
Okay, great, thank you. So there's a question here that I may be able to help answer. Does previous government work experience help? I guess in relation to your application, I would say, you know, our students come from a diverse, in terms of work experience backgrounds, education backgrounds, like postgraduate degree or a university degree, I mean. And so certainly it's applicable, it's relevant experience, but certainly our students come from a varied, different work experience and education at the university level. So I would say, you know, we're open to different types of students. Okay, any more questions here? There's a question here about international students. And so what I would say is, we'd have to look at your application, but at the minimum, you'll see when you do apply that you'll be asked if you're legally eligible to work in Canada. That is a requirement because you will be an employee of the OSC. That if you are studying abroad or if you're from abroad, then that will be a requirement of the position when you do apply. Okay, so I think those are all the questions that I've seen come through. Maybe I'll just throw one last question to the group that I pre-prepared. What advice would you give to someone starting in their legal career? If you put yourself in the shoes of a summer law student or someone just starting out, what advice would you give them?
I think this was part of our answer to a previous question, but I would say never be afraid to ask for help. Everyone here, or hopefully no matter where you go, should be, invested in your success and wanting to help you. So you should never feel like you're completely on your own. You can't know anything, or can't know everything. Sorry, you can know some things. You can't know everything when you're just starting out. So being comfortable communicating, areas where you might be having trouble with your superiors and your coworkers, I think is really, really important.
Great. Anyone else?
I would say if you haven't decided what specific area of law that you're interested in pursuing, don't be too concerned. The important thing is to be open-minded. You get into a workplace, and with every assignment, every person that you meet, ideas are exchanged, and you never know what doors are opened up. So don't be too concerned if you haven't quite figured out exactly what it is you want to do.
Yes, it's a great opportunity to talk to different people, certainly people across the commission. A lot of it is securities law, but in certain branches, it's more administrative law, different types of law. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know, but I can appreciate that, there's, some varied work there from that perspective. Yes.
Just based off of what you said, I think I would add, don't be afraid to apply to the OSC if you don't have a lot of experience with securities law. My branch in particular does do a lot of work with administrative law and evidence. And if that's something that you find interesting, but you don't know a lot about securities law, that shouldn't dissuade you from applying, because we always have, like, the underlying issue is always securities law focused, but there's a lot of other different parts of the law at play at the same time. So definitely don't feel like that's a reason you shouldn't apply.
Okay, and there's another question that just came in. What about out of province students? So absolutely, if you're applying from another province, you're welcome to apply as well. Okay, so I think we'll start wrapping up. If I didn't get the opportunity to get to your question, please feel free to email me directly. If I didn't answer it the way that, if you still have additional questions or need some clarification, I'm happy to please email me. My email address is jfuh@osc.gov.on.ca, or you can email our general recruitment inbox, hrrecruitment@osc.gov.on.ca as well. Okay, so to wrap up, thank you so much to our panelists for sharing your experiences and insights with us. And thank you to our audience for attending today. We really hope you enjoyed it and got some insight into the OSC. We encourage you to visit our OSC website to learn more about our organization, our current policies and initiatives, and the mandates of the various branches. Please also visit our OSC career website for more information on the 2022 Summer Law Student Opportunities, and apply by September 3rd, 2021 at 5 p.m. to be 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to be considered. So thank you again all so much for attending, and hopefully we'll see you all again. Thank you. Take care. Bye.
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 Bye.